Okay, so I've got some rather concerning news, and that is that someone in the Lotus Eaters audience was visited by Antiterror police for posts that they made online, which were also not criminal. So here we have a post from Ava, who I happen to actually know because she asked me late last year to send a happy birthday message to her mum because they're big fans of the show, and I thought it was really wholesome.
Yeah.
She explained how her and her mother watched the show together, and I was just like, well, that's really quite endearing. I can't say no to that. And so I'm aware of who she is, and I saw her post this message. Just been visited by counter-terrorism police who are probably reading this. Refuse to tell me what I've said, refuse to tell me where I said it, refuse to tell me how it flagged, and they took my 60-year-old father's decorative samurai sword and questioned the Roman helmet, which they mistakenly thought was an Anglo-Saxon helmet, which is interesting. We'll be talking about that in a minute, but I asked her for a bit more detail about what happened, and this is what she said. When I opened the door to them originally, they told me they were Merseyside police, and I'm quoting here, "It's nothing bad, don't worry," and they needed to speak with me. When I let them in, they told me they were counter-terrorism. They were very polite, to be fair to them, but refused to tell me what I said was inciting violence, and that seems to be the key term that they're using here, and also told me I've committed no crime. So, but incitement to violence is a crime. So if you're inciting violence, that is a crime. But if they're concerned about you inciting violence, but you committed no crime, it seems to suggest that you're just saying things online that they don't approve of more than anything. Yeah. That's what I'm drawing from this. Do you both agree?
If she was actually inciting violence, they would just arrest her.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're going to be shy about arresting someone from the right online for tweeting.
Yeah, well, we've seen lots of examples of that going on, haven't we? What do you think, Stelios?
I think it definitely shows that she violated no law.
Mm-hmm.
This is demonstrable. And the issue is that what she did, allegedly, if that's not just, brute intimidation, which it is, but if it's more than that, what she did will count as a hate crime if legislation passes forward that says that increases what counts as hate.
Or maybe a non-crime hate incident.
We'll be getting onto that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You've presaged it.
Sorry.
But I think it's also interesting as well that it's anti-terror police. It's not just regular police, which is probably scary enough for people who have no history of criminality, to then have anti-terror police be your sort of first step in having contact with the police.
Are they armed?
I don't know. She hasn't said. So I'd presume probably not.
Yeah.
So that's worth bearing in mind. But she did send me a picture of this Anglo-Saxon helmet, and that is the most obvious Roman helmet I've ever seen.
It's a classic. In fact, that is a... it's not Titus. It's... who's the guy who... Roman Empire at its greatest extent? Came after Hadrian.
Oh, no.
Before Hadrian.
I don't want to say the wrong thing.
How is it? I can't remember his name. It's right on the tip of my tongue.
You're not thinking of the Roman Empire enough.
Antonius Pius was the emperor after Hadrian.
No, it's the one before Hadrian.
Oh.
Why can't I remember this? This is really annoying me now.
People are saying the chat are saying Trajan.
Trajan. That's right.
Trajan, yes.
Exactly, Trajan, right.
Well done, chat.
Thank you, chat.
Why was that? Honestly, it's Mondays, man. But the bar across the front of the helmet was implemented after Trajan's campaign in Dacia, because the Dacians had this giant god-awful falx that apparently was carving through helmets.
They're great big curved...
Yeah, and so the bar there was designed to reinforce the helmet, to stop them carving through and into your skull. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, definitely not an Anglo-Saxon helmet, just FYI.
From arrows of hate.
Yeah. Enough with that disinformation, anti-terror police.
Yeah, exactly.
So to carry on, they also questioned me on my religion, asking if I'm Christian due to the religious icons in the room, and asked my parents and asked my parents' political views. They've also emailed to tell us the property won't be returned of the sword, which was a decorative samurai sword, I think.
Why?
I don't understand. It's also decorative.
Was she married to someone named Bill before?
Good Tarantino reference there.
It's not going to be sharp if it's a decorative.
I know, yeah, which I'm not entirely sure is something that you're not allowed.
You can just order another one off Amazon.
I know, it's ridiculous.
This is absurd.
It was that particular sword, though.
Yeah.
They just like the look of it, I think.
Lost an ancestor to a
So,
15th century.
apparently, when they found out, this is her words, my father was a veteran, they started asking if he had a gun license, because most ex-soldiers do, which she says is not quite true, and that sounds about right.
I don't think it's true.
I don't think it is. And apparently they also never left any names, contact details, receipts for the items taken, or a reference for the visit. And when she called up Merseyside Police, because obviously this was a bit worrying, they said without a reference they can't do anything.
You're at the mercy of the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So they just stole your sword.
It sounds like it, yes. And it's worth mentioning as well, I think the reason they're asking about it being Anglo-Saxon is that it was in the news recently that an interest in Anglo-Saxon history apparently is somehow a white supremacist thing, or makes you a dangerous nationalist, or any number of these silly things. It's not true. You can care about history and
not be a Nazi.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I know. But this was only last Monday, I think, that we covered this, wasn't
recent,
it?
Yeah.
So that's in the news. That's probably why the police were asking it when it happened late last week. I think it was on Friday, potentially. So this broke on Monday. So it's that same week that it was in the news. Perhaps that this was something that they were aware of.
Question, because I appreciate the fact that you may not know of all the details of the case, but do you know if they actually show the ID that they are members of the police?
Well, we'll get to that.
Good.
So this led me to think that from the details that she shared, that people were impersonating the police to steal the sword, because I thought, okay,
Seems a lot of work.
yeah, but you know,
Sure.
it's a way of them potentially getting away with getting hold of a sword, which they don't have to use their real life identity to
Yes.
get away with crime. I don't know. But that was why I suggested here, call local police to report it. They'll at least be able to confirm the authenticity, which eventually they did. They said, if you can move that away. Hi, we can confirm that the officers who attended were from Counter-Terrorism Police, Northwest, as part of inquiries into an investigation they are carrying out. Thanks.
Okay, so they can get the sword back then. If there's no crime committed, the sword isn't sharp, so it's not a weapon.
Well,
Why can't you give it back?
that's the thing, isn't it? That's very interesting that they're confirming it's a legitimate case.
Yeah.
But apparently they're still keeping the property. So, of course, Harry Miller from Faircop was all over this, because there are lots of things here that are questionable about what happened here. And here they are posting about it. 19-year-old woman visited by anti-terrorist unit of Merseyside Police yesterday. They asked her about her politics, if she is right-wing, and why she had an Anglo-Saxon replica helmet in the house. They refused to say what she was accused of, and they confiscated property, a replica decorative sword hanging on her parents' wall, and advised her, bite your tongue before talking online.
Well, that's a threat. That's
This is a very much the process is the punishment sort of thing, isn't it? Because she has committed no crime, nothing has been done wrong in the eyes of the law, but still it warrants a visit from anti-terror police to get her to bite her tongue before talking online.
just intimidation.
It is, yeah, and I don't understand how the police think that this is a good idea even on their own end, because this just paints them as petty tyrants, doesn't it? It makes them look like thought police, ultimately, which is what they are at this point.
So I just wanted to see Harry's follow-up to that.
Mm-hmm.
So she's never been in any trouble before, no idea what she's done, then police refusing to tell her. I mean, I feel like we're living in a mafia state at this point. A woke mafia state.
We definitely are, yes. It's ridiculous. And the funny thing is, recently I spoke to Harry Miller about two-tier policing, and he was talking about this sort of thing only a few weeks before this actually happened. And thankfully, he's very good about this sort of thing.
He's superb.
And there is going to be some pushback on this. But it's worth talking about these non-crime hate incidents, because this will probably be logged. This will probably be on an advanced background check for her in the future if she wants to, go into certain forms of employment.
Had an Anglo-Saxon helmet.
So what is a non-crime hate incident for anyone who isn't a government tyrant? So the definition is A non-crime hate incident means an incident or alleged incident which involves or is alleged to involve an act by a person, the subject, which is perceived by a person other than the subject to be motivated, wholly or partly, by hostility or prejudice towards persons with a particular characteristic.
So thought policing.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It is entirely thought policing.
Yeah,
Otherwise, they would say that it is violating the
It's an act. It would be an act. No, this is an intent.
Mm-hmm. Your emotional state at the time is irrelevant because the government can never definitively establish this.
No.
The government can't say, you were feeling this emotion at that time. We don't have the technology to do that, I'm afraid.
But even then, I mean, we have like mens rea in common law, and intention matters when you're committing a crime, whether it's murder or manslaughter, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
But the emotion you were feeling when you were committing the crime, well, I'm sorry, no, not even, this isn't even crime. The emotion you were feeling when you came to their attention, I guess, is what we're debating here. It's like, sorry, am I not allowed to, am I in command of my own emotions? What, I mean, if there's no crime, why am I even talking to you? Why are you policing my emotions?
I think the subjectivity of the issue is what is the most salient bit here, because if you pass a law that says you shouldn't have a particular emotion, that allows for the Ministry of Emotion to come in and just say, I'm reading your mind, therefore I can punish you.
It's preposterous on the face of it.
Yeah, well, I think that these sorts of things are just the desperate acts of a state in decline, isn't it? It's trying to persecute people who are making legitimate criticisms of it. That's why they're resorting to these measures that are unprecedented in British history.
Well, it goes to show you how far the tyrannical liberal state has gone. It's no longer about what you've actually done. Now it's about whether you have the wrong emotion or not. I mean, this is all being done in the name of tolerance and diversity.
And also, in this particular case, get visited by anti-terror police when you've not even committed a crime at all.
Well, feeling an emotion that's not approved by the government is now apparently a terrorist act.
Yeah, and how... I don't even know how social media posts can be seen as being in the purview of the anti-terror police anyway. Yeah. Maybe if you're inciting violence in a very direct way, I could see it perhaps being relevant.
Maybe if you're coordinating a terror attack on Twitter or Facebook or something?
That would be within their remit, right? Or perhaps you were, I don't know, calling a jihad or something like that. Then you could understand why it might be relevant. But just...
that
posting your opinion. Sorry, Stelios.
No, I wanted to introduce a slightly comedic angle. Just think of all these horror movies with exorcisms where you have Vatican priests who go and try to establish whether it is an exorcism or not. And they're really skeptic about it. If that was a woke thing, they would say half the earth is possessed.
Yeah.
Just...
So that's what they're worried about. That's why they think the far right is everywhere. Yeah. Like the evil emotions are out there in the public. And apparently they have a license to go and expunge them.
Yeah, apparently so. So it's also worth mentioning as well that these non-crime hate incidents, they had been sort of put on hold because Harry Miller of Fair Cop had a case with Humberside Police after there was a complaint over a supposed transphobic tweet, and this was logged as a non-crime hate incident, which Harry rebuffed because they're silly. It's not actually a crime. Why are you making a record of it, which shows up in background checks?
But Starmer decided to bring them back, didn't he?
He did indeed. Yes. So here is an article from the 2nd of September. Police log more non-crime hate incidents despite crackdown. So yes, even though there were limits by Suella Braverman to limit the practice, they've brought them back and there are more than ever. And it seems like not only is it just for non-crime, but it's also for non-terror related terror offences. That's ultimately what we're at now. If the anti-terror police are turning up to people's door for posting things about politics, and I've seen the kind of thing that she posts, it's probably less spicy than even myself.
Right.
So the fact that warrants anti-terror police to turn up at her door of her parents' house, harass the family, take their property, obviously leave them very worried and uncertain. And this is clearly to control people. There's no legal justification for this. It's just the state exercising force over people, and it's appalling. I think that unless we push back very hard on this sort of thing, that this could happen to anyone in the audience. It could happen to any of the people who work at Lotus Eaters potentially, because it seems to be over nothing, because no crime was committed. Therefore, there's no reason for it to happen.
She holds opinions that are not progressive.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're persecuting her for.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Stelios?
Do you know if she's okay, first of all? Because a member of our audience, is she...
That was the first thing I asked, don't worry. No, she's doing all right. I think she's had plenty of support. Lots of people have, reached out and said, any way I can help, let me know. Obviously, Harry Miller's picked it up.
That's good.
There are lots of people talking about this sort of thing now. And I think that one very important thing that I've taken away from the sort of follow-up from it is that if we on the right stick up for each other, actually a lot of this becomes a lot more bearable. And I also think that the state's ability to persecute people, if we work as a group and coordinate to resist these sorts of efforts, well, you can see that Harry Miller with Fair Cop can see victories in court. Well, if multiple people are all supporting each other, then we can resist this sort of thing quite handily, I think. But yes, it's obviously a very concerning direction for the British state to go, and I, for one, don't want to see any more of this, but I think we will. I hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, and if you want to see what else we're up to, you can follow our series Lads Hour on the website. This one talking about Hot Fuzz. It's where we have all of our fun, and if you want to see all the other work we're putting out, you can follow us on Twitter. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.